This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Lebanon's prime minister tries to appease protesters by offering early elections as world leaders rally support after Beirut's blast. The Afghan Grand Council okays the release of Taliban prisoners, paving the way for peace talks. And the latest on the Mauritius environmental emergency over oil spill in the Indian Ocean. Once again, welcome to Africa Live. I'm Richard Cyril Nta, live in Nairobi. And for those of you joining us from across the continent and around the globe, we thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at other stories making headlines this hour. Businesses in big African cities waking up slowly from the devastation of the coronavirus restrictions. And in sports, YouTube athletes Julius Yego sharpening his skills and aiming for gold in 2021. Once again, welcome to Africa Live. Let's bring you up to speed with some of the stories we have on our radar. International leaders will today hold talks to raise aid for Beirut following a massive explosion which devastated the Lebanese capital on Tuesday. The virtual conference set up by France and the United Nations is expected to begin in the next hour. The U.S. President Donald Trump said he plans to join the call. Lebanese officials estimate up to $15 billion in damage from the blast. The explosion occurred at a port warehouse which stored 2,000 tons of ammonium nitrate. At least 158 people were killed and more than 300,000 rendered homeless. On Saturday, thousands of anti-government protesters gathered in the Lebanese capital. They were in Beirut's Martyrs Square, some throwing stones. Riot police fired tear gas at those who were trying to break through a barrier to get to the parliament building. 5 lawmakers have resigned in protest over what they called a disaster. Lebanese officials have promised to hold those responsible accountable, but protesters say they don't trust the government. Our correspondent Adel El-Mahroui is in Beirut. He joins us live there. Adel, thank you for joining us here on Africa Live. Adel, what is the latest?
Well, I'm here in Martyrs Square where the violent protests took place yesterday. And the square is in a state of preparations. There is movements to make sure that the square is ready when protest comes. There is another call for protesting coming up just a few hours from now. And it is expected to be equally violent. Many people here, when I spoke to them during yesterday's protest, they're furious at the government and many people do not mind resorting to violence to force their government to move away. And therefore, it has been quite a challenge for the Lebanese capital, which has been already struggling in a terrible economic crisis, COVID-19 impact, and now the blast, 3 massive hits to its economy. And with these protests, we can see destruction happening to this area. Private properties have been destroyed in part of the clashes that has been taking place since yesterday evening until late at night and are expected to continue today.
Adel El-Mahroui, excellent reporting. Thank you for bringing all of that there to light. Meanwhile, to end the chaos in Beirut, the Lebanese prime minister says he'll call an early election.
In reality, there's no way out of this structural crisis without an early parliamentary election in order to produce a new political class and a new parliament. We're in an emergency, not only because of the disaster and the manner of handling it, but the state of emergency I'm talking about is related to the fate of the country and its future. That is why I call upon all the political parties to agree on the next phase, and they don't have a lot of time. I'm ready to take on this responsibility for a period of 2 months so they could reach an agreement.
Well, let's go to Kabul, where the Afghan Grand Council has agreed to release the remaining Taliban prisoners. This paves the way for direct peace talks between the Afghan government and the militant group and potentially end almost 2 decades of war. Sultan Faizi reports.
After the declaration of the statement by the authorities of this Grand Council, President Ashraf Ghani announced that he will release the remaining 400 Taliban prisoners, and he will sign the order for this release, and this process will start today. The statement included some key points, which is about the guarantees that the fighters shouldn't go to the battlefields, and those fighters who are foreigners, after delivering to their countries, they must be assured that they will not return to the battlefields. And they emphasized on the long-term or permanent ceasefire following the intra-Afghan dialogues, as well as the commitments for the Afghan people by the international community for the country's development, for the country's progress, as well as their support for the country's future. It's quite clear that this statement is a roadmap towards Afghanistan's future, or let's say a political settlement, because one of the other articles is pointing on the adjustment or probable adjustment of the Afghan constitution, which means that after any modification for the Afghan constitution, there is a possibility of a political settlement that Taliban may take part in power, or other sides that are not part of the Afghan government may come to power or share the power with the Afghan government. So this is something that is actually going to take place after the intra-Afghan dialogues that will kick off after, let's say, 3 days, as President announced. But we have to wait and see what will be the Taliban reaction, because Taliban at the very beginning opposed the Loya Jirga or Grand Assembly. They said that this assembly is not representing the whole nation. So we have to wait and see that what will be their reaction about this.
The Indian Ocean island of Mauritius has declared a state of environmental emergency late Friday following an oil spill. A Japanese-owned ship that ran aground 2 weeks ago has begun spilling tons of fuel into the ocean. French President Emmanuel Macron has pledged support for Mauritius following an appeal by the island's state prime minister, Pravin Jugnauth. Angelo Coppola brings us the latest.
According to authorities, the ship was carrying nearly 4,000 tons of fuel. Rough seas have hampered efforts to stop the fuel leaking from the bulk carrier MV Wakashio.
There is no transparency at all on the state of the ship in terms of what's happening to the leakage. Have they emptied the tanks? The authorities are not talking at all on this particular situation.
The ecological and environmental damage is extensive, despite the best efforts to contain the spillage.
It's one of its first kind in the region itself. The region has never faced any such oil spilled in the past. And actually, one of the most beautiful lagoon with some very specific marine ecosystems have been completely impacted with this oil spill, which started yesterday. After 12 days, the ship were on the reefs.
The situation is escalating, but a lack of information is a growing cause of concern. The Mauritian authorities had never had to deal with this type of emergency before, and by their own admission, aren't equipped to do so.
So we learned today that the French government has extended support to the island of Mauritius. Most probably that will be in terms of resources, but also in terms of capacity and technical know-how to deal with such a situation.
These are tense times for the people of Mauritius, and there are growing concerns that more oil could escape the vessel. Hopefully, authorities can contain what is the biggest environmental damage the island state has faced. I'm Angelo Coppola for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Health experts in Nigeria are concerned about what they've termed as response fatigue to the COVID-19 pandemic. They say this is not just the case on the part of the citizens, but also government officials. Kelechi Mekalam brings us more on this story.
It's been 6 months since the coronavirus hit Nigeria, and safety measures like social distancing and wearing of face masks have become the new normal. From the onset, the government had made it compulsory to wear face masks in public places, and citizens were asked to strictly obey that directive. But several months later, many are beginning to relax in implementing the order. The views of some citizens about these health protocols are also changing. Now, a walk through the streets of Abuja, Nigeria's capital, reveals these varying opinions. While some say wearing a face mask is absolutely necessary, others believe there are health risks that come with it.
I always wear face mask because of the protection of the coronavirus, of spreading, because we think it's a joke, but it's not a joke. It's real killed. It's real killed.
It's real, but you know, wearing a face mask actually, to me, it's not that safe to some people. You know, like some people that have asthma, some people that cannot breathe very well.
When you're putting on your face mask, you make sure they are very neat. The hygiene behind the face mask still matters so much. If you're putting on your face mask, you are protected at least up to 80%.
The World Health Organization recommends the use of face masks as a safety measure to curb the spread of COVID-19. But the question on the minds of many here is how much longer citizens would have to keep up with these protocols. The government had eased some of the containment measures, but medical experts are concerned that this could lead to a surge in cases. Kelechi Emekalam, CGTN Abuja, Nigeria.
The impact of the pandemic on global trade has increased the urgency for African economic integration. That's the message from a virtual symposium on the impact of China's Belt and Road Initiative on the African Continental Free Trade Area's infrastructure development. Yulisa Njamela has more.
The Belt and Road Initiative is a global infrastructure development strategy adopted by the Chinese government to invest in at least 70 countries and some international organizations. The BRI plan has so far seen China investing in various countries and organizations around the world since the strategy was adopted. The virtual symposium, organized by the Human Sciences Research Council and the Academy of Contemporary China, among others, deliberated on strategies to accelerate the African Continental Free Trade Area infrastructure development. The African Continental Trade Area presents opportunities for countries on the continent to grow economically through regional cooperation and integration. Speakers here agreed that the African Continental Free Trade Area infrastructure development has become critical in fast-tracking economic regional integration, and that China's partnership is critical in its implementation, especially under the new normal.
We need to enhance greater cooperation within the region. We must look at the Belt and Road Initiative as something that adds to the impetus of developing regional infrastructure that connects the countries so that they can operate as a unit.
China and Africa need to help each other more than ever to overcome difficulties together. So nowadays, China has successfully put the pandemic under effective control and achieved 3.2% of economic growth in the second quarter, which is a very good sign. And China is expected to be the world's first major economy that can achieve positive growth this year. Although facing the challenge of the pandemic, the African continent has a great potential for development, and China-Africa's joint construction of the Belt and Road still has a bright future.
The health of the Belt and Road Initiative lies in the fact that it is everyone together, that it's not a Chinese initiative to expand Chinese influence, that it's a Chinese initiative to expand connectivity. And therefore, that connectivity, when things go well, that connectivity is helping everyone to move forward. At the moment, things are not going well in the world. And so I think it is the moment for China to lead in using that connectivity to shape the world's response to this crisis. China has been really a strong leader in trying to make the world more fair, particularly also in the way that multilateral institutions treat the global south.
A number of virtual symposiums such as these are due to be held on a regular basis. This is to ensure that no project lags behind as a result of the current COVID-19 pandemic. Yulisa Njomela for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
You're watching Africa Live. Time now for a short break. Here's what's ahead. In our Made in Africa special series, meet the Senegalese musician blending traditional beats with hip-hop. Nigeria is my home. 160 million vibrant, ambitious individuals constantly seeking the perfect self-expression. It is these people who inspired me to be that person that is seen, to be a voice that is heard, and ultimately to be the anchor that I am. I have to tap in, tune in, and turn on the very best qualities within me to deliver the news. I'm Richard Nta, an anchor for CGTN.
My family has been doing this artwork for the past 600 years.
My dream is to be the leading player in Africa in the spice sector.
Nobody in the region consumes it. Even me cannot afford the vanilla cooking.
What we've created here is the elegance, the color, the celebration of life.
Welcome back to Africa Live. Thanks for staying with us in our continuing Made in Africa series. We now turn to Senegal to learn more about West Africa's griots. In various countries across the region, griots are part of an ancient class. They encompass poets, storytellers, and musicians who pass their craft from one generation to the next. Numukunda Sissoko is a musician who comes from a long line of Senegalese griots. He's made a name for himself by mixing the traditional kora, a 21-string instrument, with hip-hop beats.
Moi, c'est la musique qui me parle. Je suis né dans la musique, donc mon père, ma mère, hein, la musique. C'est tout ce que j'ai, c'est tout ce que j'ai appris, c'est tout ce que j'ai à faire. C'est ça que seulement que je peux faire. Je connais rien que la musique. Donc ça, c'est comme quelque chose de grandiose pour moi. Ça, c'est vraiment ma passion. Je veux toujours être un artiste. Je m'appelle Numukunda, griot traduit moderne. Bienvenue au Sénégal, pays de la Teranga. Jërëjëf. Je suis né, comme je dis, je suis né une très grande famille qui faisait que le traditionnel. Donc en sortant d'écouter les autres musiques, c'est ça qui m'a influencé d'écouter du rap, comme je te dis, du ngueros, du house, du salsa, du hip-hop. Ça, du reggae, c'est du mélange. Ça m'a vraiment influencé. Je voulais faire d'autres choses que rester toujours ma traditionnelle. Mais j'ai toujours imposé un peu ma traditionnelle, fait un peu ça, tout ce que je pourrais le donner en moderne. Dire que je ne vais pas rester sur Je reste dans le traditionnel, aussi en donnant la kora, possibilité que les gens le découvrent, en mettant du traditionnel, un peu de hip-hop, mais rester toujours du traditionnel. Bienvenue à la grande famille. Ça, c'est la grande maison de Banaya Family. Donc, c'est ici que tout s'était passé, qu'on a appris à jouer la kora ici, qu'on a appris à danser, nos mamans ici, toute la famille ici. Donc, tu verras vers 16h, 17h, comme ça, tu vas voir nos enfants, la famille. Tu vois, ils sont devenus grands, ils vont jouer, ils vont faire tout. C'est ici. Tout. J'ai appris ici. Ce petit endroit-là, c'est ici la grande maison. Voilà, encore je te dis, vous êtes bienvenus. Celle-là, c'est ma fille avec sa copine. Là, ils vont aller à un spectacle. Ils viennent de se réveiller. Même en réveillant, elle va chanter. Elles sont là. Même derrière, il y a Taco, il y a Timon, il y a Bana. Abi, Noël. Il y a un peu des deux parce qu'il y en a beaucoup qui sont restés jouer le traditionnel sans essayer de voir d'autres musiques ouvertes. Mais si tu as la possibilité d'essayer de faire d'autres musiques, que ce soit le classique, jazz, tu vois, donc ça te permet d'aller un peu plus loin. Donc le moment, c'était dur que ma famille vont comprendre. Mais le moment que je suis parti en tournée et j'arrivais avec beaucoup de l'argent et je l'ai placé à mon père a regardé, mais tu fais quoi? Je dis, c'est du musique, du rap que je fais. C'est tout cet argent-là? Je dis oui. Il me dit, ah bon. Donc tout ce que tu fais, si tu le fais avec un âme, donc alhamdulillah. J'ai choisi deux instruments, la kora et les percussions, parce que c'est ces deux choses qui m'ont vraiment influencé. C'est ces deux choses, j'ai eu les deux diplômes, parce que c'est ces deux choses que j'ai aimées. Donc, mais après, je suis fidèle avec la kora. Tu vois, parce que la percussion, il y a trop aussi de physique qui tape, quelque chose. Et puis la rapidité, ça m'a donné un peu d'élan avec la corde. Donc j'ai un peu diminué les percus et je suis resté avec la kora. Donc la kora est devenue une chose que j'ai vraiment aimée, ma première femme. Comme je te dis, vous êtes arrivés avec la grande famille. Ça, c'est la nouvelle génération. Il y avait l'ancien qui était là, mon frère Diabel qui vient à Londres. Donc on est là, on va s'amuser. Les percus, on va s'amuser. Dans une famille griot, on n'organise même pas. Venez tôt. Tout ça vient naturel. On a des heures qu'on va commencer, on va jouer, voir des trucs qu'on peut changer ensemble. Donc on va le faire. Tu vas voir chaque personne, ce qu'il aime, il va toucher ça. Si c'est le doudou, si c'est la kora, si c'est le balafon, chaque individu. Donc c'est ça le flow. Donc il nous voit tout faire, jouer, danser. Il reprend la même chose. Dès qu'ils ont besoin de quelque chose, eux, tu ne peux pas. C'est ça le... Bienvenue à Tamba. On est bien arrivé chez moi, chez la grande famille. Cette lieu est très important pour nous, Mukunda, parce que c'est là où son père a appris à jouer la kora. Ça, c'est son oncle, la famille Diabaté. Donc, venez bien. Ouais. Donc, comme je dis, ce lieu représente Mukunda. Comme je fais une musique aujourd'hui, c'est une musique mandingue. Et cette musique mandingue vient d'où? De Tambacounda, d'ici. Donc mes parents viennent d'ici. Ils jouent des djembé, du kora, des guitares traditionnelles, du ngoni, tu vois. Donc ma musique, si tu entends Mukunda, tu vois ma influence dans ma musique, tu entends Tambacounda. Comme je te dis, le lieu est tellement multiple pour moi. Mon premier album, il s'appelle Tambacounda, parce que c'est pour l'importance de ce pays que ma musique est influencée dessus. Bon, je débat tous les sujets, que ce soit non à la violence, non à la guerre, la paix, les enfants, tu vois, c'est important. Je parle de la société, tu vois, comment on vit. Et puis partout où je vais aussi, partout dans le monde, les sujets qui chose, ce que j'ai raconté, j'essaie de dire ce que je pense. Donc, un peu, je ne suis pas politique, mais je parle un peu en Afrique, ce qui se passe. Donc, sans faire le politique. Donc, il y a tous les sujets que je débatte dans ma musique, toutes les influences que je pense. Si je le dis, ça peut faire quelque chose. Oui. Je vais vous montrer un très bon souvenir de mon papa. Je n'étais même pas né. Venez voir. Comme je vous là, c'est mon papa, tu vois. Il est né dans une très grande famille musicienne. Depuis des siècles, cette famille, c'est des griots. On a hérité que ça. On ne connaît que de la musique. Donc, tu vois, cette photo, je n'étais même pas né du tout. Donc, on n'est hérité que de la musique. Voilà. Ça, c'est le papa. Ça date, hein? Oui, comme je te dis, quand j'étais enfant, j'ai copié mon père, qu'il soit guitariste, percussionniste, danseur. Je l'ai vu faire, donc je l'ai pris, quoi. J'ai pris le même chemin, tu vois. Je danse, je joue la kora, je chante, donc je l'ai copié, quoi. Donc c'était presque mon idole, quoi, mon papa.
L'Afrique, nous, en ce moment, l'Afrique était divisée en royaumes. Bon, l'autre royaume avait comme la guitare traditionnelle qu'on appelait le ngoni. D'autres avaient les tambours. Dans le côté mandingue, on avait la kora. La kora, c'est un instrument traditionnel africain. Un instrument royal. Si je dis royal, c'est-à-dire, c'est un instrument que j'ai toujours pour les rois. Comme l'Afrique, ça tourne. Le kora était l'instrument messager. Vraiment, elle a vu le jour vers le XIVe siècle. Mais avant qu'elle ne soit kora, elle était d'abord kora, mais kora pas au même sens qu'aujourd'hui. Parce qu'avant, elle était de 4 à 6 cordes. Mais aujourd'hui, elle se retrouve à 23 cordes. Donc cet instrument est un instrument noble. Elle est légitime d'une famille royale. Et le griot qui le joue aussi, c'est un griot complètement à part entière, un griot noble. Un griot noble, c'est un griot qui est vraiment griot. C'est la raison pour laquelle la kora était un instrument très fascinant pour l'Afrique. Voilà.
Non, je rêve d'être vraiment quelqu'un vraiment connu et célèbre aussi, tu vois. Être quelqu'un vraiment que je serais un exemple, quoi. Donc, c'était mes rêves. aujourd'hui a fait que je suis en train de faire un peu réussite, un peu. Je ne vais pas dire encore. Je rêve d'être quelqu'un vraiment qui peut aider, qui peut donner socialement, qui peut donner et puis faire quelque chose aussi que c'est un référent. Donc, des grands, je ne sens que je suis dans le chemin, je touche du bois, je veux que ça continue jusqu'à mes rêves pourraient se réaliser, Inch'Allah.
Time now for your business headlines. Here's a look at what's ahead. Businesses in big African cities waking up slowly from the devastation of the coronavirus restrictions. And a Kenyan scientist awarded by Rockefeller Foundation for her work in enhancing food security.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars of Casablanca, among the crowds in Cairo,
who come to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt.
Along the waters of the Nile, along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
Welcome back to Africa Live. Thanks for staying with us. Chinese tech giant Huawei says it will stop producing its most advanced smartphone chips from next month due to U.S. sanctions. The consumer business CEO Yun Chengdong says it would be a huge loss for the company. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal reports Qualcomm has been lobbying to the Trump administration to allow it to sell its chips for Huawei 5G phones. The U.S. chipmaker warns the sanctions will enable foreign competitors to get access to a market worth $8 billion each year, rather than preventing the Chinese company from obtaining the parts. Cities across Africa are returning to some form of normalcy as the governments continue to ease COVID-19 restrictions. Economic activity is restarting as people head back to work. But many businesses, hubs, and marketplaces are still far from what they used to be. Let's hear from our correspondents in Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Uganda.
Now, to get a clear sense of how COVID-19 is impacting businesses in this country, you need to visit this area. It's a computer village, the largest ICT market in the whole of the West African sub-region. And it's actually located in the central business district of the mainland in Lagos. But as you can see, nothing is actually happening here. At normal times, this whole area will be jammed, but the stores are all closed. They are not allowed to operate today. In the past, before COVID-19 hit, actually, they operate on a daily basis, with the exception of Sundays. But since COVID-19 hit this country, they are only allowed to operate 3 times in a week. And the reason for that is that the authorities are trying to limit the number of people coming together at the same time, because if that is allowed, then they fear that that could aid the spread of the virus. So the market operates now just 3 times a week and between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. But to be candid, the traders say they're not finding it funny at all.
Mind you, by the time business starts to flow, it's like, let me say, from that trade upward, customers are still coming. There's a lot of traffic in Lagos. So people find it difficult to reach us before that time being closed. So we are finding it difficult. It's affecting the business seriously. Because I know it's not something that will stay forever with us. It's just for a little while. It's a challenge, but we believe that pretty soon it will be out.
Well, it's no doubt a tough one for the traders, but then it's also a very tough period for every resident of this city. And the fact is that the city is actually the epicenter of COVID-19 in Nigeria, even though there's been a decline now over the past 2 weeks in the number of new infections. The truth is that the rate of infection here is still very high, and not until the authorities here are satisfied that the numbers have come down to a manageable level, well, it's difficult to see how they would ease on the restrictions. So everyone would just have to endure. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
This is Zando, or Grand Marché, in the DRC capital, Kinshasa. It's the city's main market where clothes, jewelry, foodstuffs, cosmetics, and electronic appliances are sold. This marketplace always bustles with shoppers. In April, the government shut it down to limit the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. The lockdown was lifted in June, with the government urging people to wear masks and keep a safe distance from each other. All sorts of businesses have now resumed operations. Many shop owners have placed hand-washing stations in front of their shops in line with the new measures. But people hardly observe social distancing. The police have been urged to either fine or arrest people who are not wearing masks. But some people who are skeptical about the existence of COVID-19 go about their businesses like they used to before the outbreak was announced. Chris Sochamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
This is downtown Kampala. A few months ago, these streets were empty. A national lockdown because of the coronavirus pandemic forced businesses to close. There were no people walking about. Now, a huge contrast of what life was between March and July. The government has slowly eased on its lockdown restrictions, allowing public transport to operate. Shopping arcades too are now open. Let me take you through what the rest of town now looks like. I'm inside one of the shopping arcades downtown Kampala. Several of the shops are now open. The traders have, resumed with business, and slowly people are trying to get back into the shops and trying to buy several of the things. I'm getting into one of the shops here owned by Sozi. He recently opened his stall. Sozi, how probably tough have the past 4 months been for you?
The first 4 months have been a bit tricky because first of all, we were locked. The arcades were locked. Some of us had stock in the stores, and we had to kind of sell off to have some money to keep us going. So I had a pickup. I have a pickup. I used to put some of my goods on the pickup and sell on the streets. And the difficulties I got while selling on the streets, they would always say you're not wearing a mask. I was even pulled out of my car when I was having breakfast that I was not putting on a mask, and I was arrested.
Tough times there, but are you optimistic that probably there will be a very good recovery for you in the next few months?
Well, it depends, because I don't know how people are. Most of them, some of the customers we had who used to take like 10 rolls, 15 rolls, are finding it difficult now. They have cut from 15 to 10 to 8. So I don't know how it's going to go.
Well, uncertainty there it is for Sozi and probably several other traders around town. Now let me take you to where the food markets and tell you what exactly the business there is like. The markets remained open throughout the period of the lockdown, though with limited access. It is different now, with more customers coming in to buy foodstuffs. The market authorities have, however, taken all necessary precautions, putting wash basins at entry points as well as temperature guns. The traders say business is slowly getting back to normal and could even get better in the coming months. Leon Sanyange, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Meanwhile, a Kenyan scientist has been awarded the Global Food Vision Prize by the Rockefeller Foundation. Dr. Elizabeth Kimani Murage has been recognized for developing a food secure vision for the capital, Nairobi. Robert Nagila has the details.
In a small garden in her backyard in Nairobi, Dr. Elizabeth Kimani Murage is harvesting vegetables. Her urban garden is a mix of fruits, vegetables and flowers, from strawberries and dwarf mangoes to spinach and cucumbers. What's more remarkable is that she set up her urban garden barely 4 months ago.
This is a vertical garden where you can plant food vertically, so you can go as high as you can. And across here we have put different structures. We can be able to produce food in a very small space.
And her work in food security is being recognized. She's just received an award from the Rockefeller Foundation for developing an innovative vision for a regenerative and nourishing food system for Nairobi by 2050. Her idea is to develop a more equitable and just urban space through urban gardens like hers, where access to nutritional food is a reality.
We want to ensure that food is safe in Nairobi, both from the chemical perspective, but also from the environmental perspective. And so we are promoting innovative urban farming so that people can take charge of their diets and also to be able to feed people.
A 2017 report by Oxfam estimated over 60% of the city's population, that's about 2 million people, live in slums in and around Nairobi. A situation worsened during the recent containment period to control the spread of COVID-19.
The food supply from rural areas was interrupted. People did not have access to food, and also because of losing jobs, they did not have money to buy food. So this whole thought about urban farming is very timely now.
And she's not done yet. Next on her list is to develop a food rescue system that reduces food waste and distributes it into the system for the food insecure. Robert Nagela, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
And we're not done just yet. We've got an inspirational story for you after the break. Here's a look at that headline. We bring you the story of a young Nigerian who designs furniture from worn-out tires.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Panata, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome back. The United States Health and Human Services Secretary is arriving for a visit in Taiwan today. It's the highest level visit yet by an American cabinet official in 40 years. China has lodged a protest with the U.S. over the trip, expressing its strong opposition.
The issue of Taiwan is the most important and most sensitive issue in the China-U.S. relationship. The One China principle is the political basis of China-U.S. ties. We urge the U.S. to abide by the One China principle and 3 joint communiques, stop any form of official contact with Taiwan, deal with Taiwan-related issues properly, and avoid sending any wrong signals to Taiwan independence forces so as not to harm the China-U.S. ties and peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. I want to stress that the One China principle is recognized by the international community. Any attempt to deny or challenge the One China principle will end in failure.
Well, here's an inspirational story I spoke about earlier. Youth in Nigeria are coming up with creative ways to earn a living amid soaring unemployment and the COVID-19 pandemic. Kelechi Mekalam tells us the story of a university student who converts worn-out tires into unique household furniture.
Favor Oluma starts out her day sourcing and gathering materials for her work. It's her newly found passion. She combines discarded vehicle tires with other materials including wood, ropes and foam. She makes 1700s Ottoman-inspired furniture ranging from chairs to center tables and wall arts. Favor was motivated to rise above the unemployment problem brought about by COVID-19. And she wasn't worried about the challenges that would come with being in a trade largely dominated by men.
The first time when I started, so many people were telling me, like when I went to cut the wood, the plywood, the man there was telling me that he's not sure I can do this thing. I told him that, Oga, I can do it. A lot of people have been telling me that it's not something I can do. But I say I will do it, and I've been doing it so far.
Being a university student, Favor has had to spend nearly 5 months at home due to the closure of learning institutions. But they've been very productive months. Her furniture and artworks sell for an average $80, and her works have even earned her commendation from US rap artist Meek Mill. Despite the challenges that come with the 3-month-old business, Favor is training others in the trade.
Challenges so far, I don't have a workshop, so sometimes it's inconvenient in my house and where I work, because I also work in a restaurant, so sometimes I take my work there to the storeroom to work there, and it's very inconvenient there. My future plans, I would like to get a very big workshop, like a workshop, and then I would like to empower the youths.
I'm so happy for learning it because it will help me for future. Like, I just started new, but as time goes on, I still have some experience of it. Like, I'm putting focus on it.
The unemployment rate in Nigeria is rising. By the last quarter of 2019, the Bureau of Statistics put it at 23.1%. Now the government's Economic Stability Committee projects it could hit 35% by December 2020. But Favor is one young lady who doesn't want to be trapped in that unemployment net. Kelechi Emekalam, CGTN Abuja, Nigeria.
Don't go away. We've got your sports news coming up. Let's check out the headline. YouTube athlete Julius Yego sharpening his skills and aiming for gold in 2021. Welcome back. Despite being injured and forced to retire after only 2 throws at the Rio 2016's men's javelin finals, Julius Yego did enough to leave Brazil with an Olympic silver medal. Having struggled with form since, the pioneering Kenyan field athlete had worked himself back to top form, only for Tokyo 2020 to be pushed back by a year. Here's Sadiq Shaban with more.
The last few months have been unprecedented for Julius Yego. Even for a professional athlete used to the elements, he's been forced to adjust drastically to the new reality.
I'm confined to my compound, just to training. And yes, when Corona came, that was in March, of course, when the first case was reported in Kenya, and then everything was closed, schools were closed, stadiums were closed. So I say maybe the best place, the safest place for me to be with my children and family is to stay home. So we left Nairobi and then we came home. So this is the place I've been. And it's been hell, At the first 2 months, I had no place to train. I was just in my compound with my family.
The 2015 World Javelin Champion has been using his new set of gym equipment recently donated by the Athletics World Governing Body. Working out at home has attracted enthusiasm from his youngest supporter and son, Finn Keegan.
Sometimes when I'm doing this kind of training here at home, and then, it reaches a point where I want to take a bit of rest. He will come and tell me, no, Daddy, fanya. So he encourages me as well, and I think maybe he will follow my footsteps when he grow up. And he is forever with me whenever I'm doing anything. As you can see now, I'm sure he doesn't know what is happening, but he knows that there must be something going on here. He's always jovial and encouraging.
What's Yego got for us in the third? Oh, he's really chucked himself at that. Oh, hello. That's way beyond...
Popularly known as a YouTube athlete, Julius Yego stormed to the top of the game in the world 5 years ago during the World Athletics Championships in Beijing, China. The last 4 years have been the best of his life so far, before 2020 changed everything. The African Games champion has found himself isolated and lonely. He has become his own coach once again, spending time training days on end, alone in this vast sporting facility.
You know, we're just training to keep our bodies, you know, get used to the real thing. Like for me, I have to train, you know, coming here to throw javelin, just not to lose that rhythm and, you know, and not to lose my technique. Because now we can't train in the stadium because of the rules we have, because of Corona. And yeah, I enjoy this training alone in such this big, you know, field, very beautiful, and just training alone, a very big social distance from myself.
In the finals of the javelin throw at the last Olympic Games in Brazil, Diego's throw of 88.24 meters was his first and best attempt, but also his last before he was injured. He settled for silver medal behind Germany's Thomas Roller. He wanted more this year before the Olympic Games were postponed.
I'm looking forward to next year, you know, having a very good season, ending in a very high note in Olympics. So I'm just looking forward to next year. I think it will be a special year for me. I have that confidence that I will come back again stronger with big performance.
Until the 2021 Olympic Games begin in Japan as rescheduled, Julius Diego will spend the next 1 year sharpening his skills and turning his focus towards history. Having been sidelined from the sport by the outbreak of coronavirus pandemic in 2020, the Kenyan javelin champion knows only too well that his aim can only be sky high. In the game of throws in Africa, no one knows best about the sticks than the current African javelin champion, Julius Diego. The former world champion, who is also the reigning Olympic silver medalist, says he's fully recovered from a nagging hip injury and is looking forward to a golden upgrade in the 2021 Olympic Games in Japan. Sadiq Shaban, CGTN, at the Eldoret Sports Club in Kenya.
And let's talk a bit of football. We head to Europe, where Lionel Messi has led Barcelona to the Champions League quarterfinals.